Hey, I'm Jake Larson, CCA agronomist at Awesomeness Farm Supply. In this week's Ag Update, we're going to be talking about Japanese beetles. Japanese beetles overwinter in the soil and grass area as grubs. In late June, early July, once we've reached 1,030 GDUs, they will migrate out of their overwintering host of grass to row crops such as corn and soybeans, ornamental plants, gardens. First thing to do when dealing with Japanese beetles is you want to have the correct identification. We have Japanese beetles as well as false Japanese beetles. They are very similar looking, the same shape, same size, and part of the same beetle subfamily. There's three main things to help ID the Japanese beetles. The first is their head and thorax is a metallic green color. Their wings are a burnt orange copper color, and along each side of the abdomen there's 5 lines or tufts of hair. All three of these will be present on Japanese beetles, but are not present on false Japanese beetles. The reason it's important to have correct identification is Japanese beetles are considered a crop pest. They will defoliate leaves of plants. They eat and feed in between the veins of the leaves, leaving a trademark skeletalizing, almost a lace-like pattern is what they'll leave behind. It's very different than other insect pests, such as a grasshopper. They'll eat in between the veins, and it's a larger, more jagged eating. The false Japanese beetle, they are not considered crop pests. They do feed on plants, but not as aggressively or detrimental to crops as what a true Japanese beetle will. Once we've correctly identified the beetles, the next part is scouting. And in our soybean fields, scouting would be a little bit different than other insect pests that we scout for. We're not going to be scouting for number of beetles per plant like we would say with soybean aphid, but we're scouting based on percent defoliation of the plant. Iowa State recommends treating affected areas if there's 30% defoliation to the crop before R1 or when the soybeans begin to bloom, and after R1 through the R5 growth stage. They recommend treating when there's 20% defoliation to the plant. One thing to keep in mind is typically defoliation estimates are overestimated. Things look worse than they actually are. So when scouting, grab plants throughout the field and scan from the top to the bottom of the canopy. When scouting for Japanese beetles in corn, they are not necessarily a detriment like in soybeans feeding on the plant leaves, but they can be a detriment to the crop feeding on silks during pollination. Iowa State recommends treating for Japanese beetles in corn when there are 3 or more Japanese beetles per ear. The silks have been clipped down to a 1/2 inch in length, and pollination is less than 50% done. If you have any questions about identifying Japanese beetles versus false Japanese beetles, or estimating percent defoliation in soybeans and whether or not to treat in soybeans or corn, please don't hesitate to stop in or call your AFS agronomist. Thanks.